Yin sat alone on the park bench next to the house, enjoying the fresh evening air. She sipped on a cup of tea and nibbled on some snacks prepared by the maid. It had been a week since she became the wife of Jungkook, a cold-hearted mafia, and the son of her uncle's acquaintance. Yin, who no longer had anyone, including her parents who had passed away when she was young, felt indebted to her uncle for all he had done for her. Therefore, she could only comply with his request to marry Jungkook. Her uncle and Jungkook's father were establishing a business partnership and wanted a strong bond between them, like a marriage between their children to solidify their business ties. Jungkook was his father's only child, while her uncle's biological son was a boy named Yoonwoo who was also Jungkook's friend. Thus, there was no other choice but to marry Yin to Jungkook, since marrying Yoonwoo to Jungkook was out of the question. During the week they had been married, Jungkook treated her coldly but not harshly. They shared a bedroom, but instead of sleeping together, Yin often found Jungkook spending time in his workspace. His behavior clearly showed that he was avoiding his wife, which honestly made Yin feel uncomfortable. After all, they were married. If her husband avoided her like that, it made her feel terrible, as if she had a contagious and shameful disease. If Jungkook truly did not want to consider her as his wife, why didn't he just refuse the arranged marriage and tell his father he didn't want to marry her? Lost in her thoughts, Yin looked up at the sky, which was starting to darken with clouds. I hope that if it rains tonight, it will just be rain without any thunder. After mumbling to herself, Yin took another sip of her warm tea, which was still half full. She resumed eating her snacks and enjoying her evening alone. An hour passed, and she felt satisfied with the fresh evening air in the park. Finally, Yin decided to go back into Jungkook's house, which was now her home. It was already 10 p.m. and Yin still saw no signs of her husband returning home. Shortly after, she heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway and she guessed it must be him. Sure enough, a few minutes later, Jungkook entered the bedroom. Yin immediately went to greet him. "You're back? Have you had dinner?" "I ate out." "Alright, then I'll prepare some hot water for your bath." "No need. I can do it myself. You should rest." After saying that, Jungkook went straight into the bathroom without another word. Yin just stood there staring at the bathroom door that had just closed. She sighed softly, climbed into bed and wrapped herself in the blanket. 15 minutes later, she heard the bathroom door open and Jungkook emerged with just a towel wrapped around his waist. Yin tried to close her eyes as if she hadn't seen anything, but she could predict what her husband was doing, opening the closet, picking out clothes for bed and eventually putting them on. After all this, once again, she heard the bedroom door open. Yin opened her eyes and saw her husband leaving the bedroom. She guessed he was heading to his workspace. Yin took a deep breath. She still couldn't sleep. Her mind wandered far and wide. It seemed her husband was more passionate about his paperwork than her own beautiful body. What was wrong with her husband? Why did he sleep more often in his workspace than with her? They had been married for a week, and they had only slept together twice. The rest of the time, Jungkook preferred to spend his nights there alone. As she lay on the bed, lost in thought, she heard the rain start to fall lightly. Yin tried to calm herself, wrapping her entire body, including her head, in the blanket and trying to sleep, ignoring the current situation. But things didn't seem to get any better. The rain grew heavier and she began to hear distant thunder. It will be okay. Memories of her past echoed in her mind. At that time, the rain was pouring heavily. Little Yin was in the car with her parents, just returning from a Sunday holiday at the beach. Their tired bodies were no match for the happiness they felt at being able to enjoy a rare holiday together, given her father's very busy schedule. That night, the rain grew heavier and thunder struck repeatedly. Finally, a loud bolt of lightning struck just in front of their car. The three of them were so startled that her father lost control of the car. Finally, the crash happened. The car collided, causing severe damage. Tragically, Yin's father and mother died instantly due to their extensive injuries. That very day, they had been happily running along the beach, smiling and enjoying their time together. Who could have predicted that in a matter of seconds, an accident would occur and steal all of Yin's happiness away? Sweat began to pour down Yin's forehead and body as she tried to regulate her breathing. Meanwhile, the sound of rain grew louder and distant thunder could be heard. Her body uncontrollably started to tremble. Suddenly, she immediately covered her mouth tightly to keep any sound from escaping. This time, she was genuinely terrified, curling up in fear. Sweat continued to stream down her forehead and body. She stifled her sobs, but tears still flowed down her face. "Aunt Masuk, I miss you. I wish you were here with me." That night, with great effort, Yin covered her ears to block out the disturbing sounds from outside. For hours, she endured her fear alone as the rain persisted until morning finally came. At 4 in the morning, the rain began to subside. Her eyes could no longer stay open and she eventually fell into a deep sleep after such a tortuous night. 2 hours later, Jungkook entered their bedroom, preparing to go to the office. He glanced at Yin, still fast asleep, sighed softly and went into the bathroom to clean up. 20 minutes later, Jungkook emerged from the bathroom, opening the bathroom door slowly to avoid waking his wife. Carefully, he opened the closet and began to change clothes, getting ready to go to the office. Jungkook was busy with his laptop and the documents spread across his desk when he heard his phone ring. He quickly grabbed it and saw that Yin's uncle was calling. Without hesitation, he answered. Yes, uncle? Jungkook, are you busy? Yes. You could say that. I'm at the office right now. There's some paperwork that needs your signature. Can you come to my house to get it? Why your house, uncle? Aren't you going to the office today? I've had a bit of a fever for the past 2 days, so I decided to rest at home. But these documents need to be signed urgently for further processing. Yoonwoo is out of town right now. Otherwise, I would have asked him to bring them to your office. Alright then. I'll come to your house to pick up the documents. But please don't tell Yin about my condition. I don't want her to worry. Let her focus on her life without being concerned about me. Okay, uncle. After that, the call ended. Jungkook immediately prepared to leave the office and head to Yin's uncle's house. Here are all the documents. Please review them first and then sign them. Jungkook began to check each document Gyujin handed him, and after verifying them, he signed them all. Alright, I'll take these and hand them over to my father later. How is Yin doing? She's fine, uncle. Gyujin nodded slowly and smiled. Then, the head maid, Misuk, approached with refreshments. Please help yourself with the drinks and snacks, Mr. Jungkook. Thank you. Misuk smiled and nodded before bowing slightly and returning to the kitchen. 20 minutes later, after discussing various topics, Jungkook decided to return to the office. He enjoyed the snacks Misuk had prepared and wanted to take some with him to the office. 5 minutes later, Misuk returned with a package of snacks for Jungkook to take with him. Alright then, be careful on your way, Jungkook. I'm going to rest in my room. Okay, uncle. Jungkook stood up and accepted the package from Misuk. Misuk walked with him to the front of the house. How is Mrs. Yin doing, sir? She's doing fine. Oh, thank goodness. But was she okay last night? Yes, she was fine. Why do you ask? Well, there was heavy rain and thunder last night. I was worried about her. Hearing Misuk's concern piqued Jungkook's curiosity, and he stopped walking to listen to her further. Honestly, Jungkook wanted to know more about his wife. What's the matter with her? Why is rain or thunder an issue? Misuk looked a bit hesitant and surprised by his question. It meant that he was unaware of Yin's true condition. Mrs. Yin is afraid of heavy rain and thunder, sir. She trembles with fear and anxiety, because such weather reminds her of the accident that took her parents' lives when she was a child. Is that so? And she usually gets stressed if she has to endure it alone. When she was living here, I always stayed with her during heavy rain and thunderstorms to keep her calm. She can't be left alone during such times. It stresses her out terribly. Jungkook stood there, silent and stunned by her explanation. His heart ached as he realized how often he had left his wife alone at night to finish his work in his workspace. Misuk noticed his shocked expression and could guess that he knew nothing about his wife's condition. This realization made Misuk even more anxious and worried about Yin. However, she didn't dare to ask Jungkook more about Yin's condition. She could only hope that Yin was in good health and in a stable emotional state. She'll be fine. Thank you for the information. I'll be going now. After saying this, Jungkook immediately got into his car and drove out of Gyujin's driveway. Jungkook's eyes were fixed on the road ahead, but his mind was wandering. He struggled to stay focused, knowing he was driving. His thoughts were scattered, filled with images of Yin. Guilt surged within him. For the past week, he had seemed to neglect his wife, even though he never intended to. He had been working hard to finish his tasks, hoping to take extended leave for a honeymoon with his wife. That was his plan, but it seemed that unknowingly, his actions had hurt her. Afraid of heavy rain and thunder? Last night, it rained heavily and there was loud thunder repeatedly. How was she last night? She must not have been okay. Jungkook exhaled sharply, feeling like a useless husband. He didn't even know about his wife's fear. It was clear he didn't truly know her yet. I'm sorry, Yin. Starting today, Jungkook decided to come home earlier. By 7 p.m., he was already at home, making time to have dinner with his wife. He had even showered and changed into comfortable clothes for the evening. Now, they sat together at the dining table in silence. The awkward atmosphere between them was palpable. However, this time, Jungkook wanted to break the ice and initiate some warmth between them. What did you do today? Did you feel bored at home? I took care of the plants in the backyard. I don't get bored as long as there are blooming flowers. I can enjoy their beauty for hours. Hearing Yin's response, Jungkook was surprised. It seemed making his wife happy was quite simple. She could be entertained just by watching blooming flowers for hours. Even so, don't stay under the sun for too long. It can exhaust you. Did any of the maids or guards accompany you? One of the maids was with me, and she held an umbrella for me all day. That's good to hear. They fell silent again, focusing on their meal, until the sound of raindrops became noticeable. It seemed like it was the rainy season, and the rain was becoming more frequent. Gradually, the rain grew heavier, though there was no thunder. Jungkook glanced at Yin and noticed she was becoming increasingly quiet, her face showing signs of anxiety and discomfort. Soon, she hurriedly finished her meal. Jungkook, recognizing the situation, also quickly finished his dinner, knowing she would want to retreat to their bedroom soon. I'm done. I'll go ahead. She stood up abruptly and walked away quickly, leaving Jungkook watching her. Shortly after, he finished his meal and headed to their bedroom to catch up with his wife as soon as possible. As Jungkook entered the bedroom, he saw Yin burying herself under the blanket. Slowly, he climbed onto the bed and joined her under the covers. Yin, sensing movement on the bed, knew it was her husband, but was surprised by his unusual willingness to sleep beside her. Meanwhile, outside, the sound of rain grew heavier, accompanied by distant thunder and lightning. Her body trembled. Right now, she desperately wanted to embrace her husband, but she restrained herself fiercely. She was afraid to do so, especially knowing that her husband hadn't cared about her all this time. If she dared to embrace him, he would surely feel disturbed and end up hating her even more. Currently, she curled up with her back to him. Cold sweat began to form on her forehead. She deliberately kept her mouth shut tight to avoid making any noise that might arouse her husband's suspicion. She tried to stay calm despite the haunting shadows of the past that continued to plague her mind. But suddenly, she could feel a hand slowly starting to embrace her from behind. Yes, she knew it must be her husband's hand. Next, she could feel his body drawing closer to hers. Shh, relax. I'm here with you now, so don't be afraid. Hearing his gentle voice made her heart beat faster, but there was also a sense of calm flowing through her body. Now she knew she wasn't alone. Her husband was embracing her, trying to comfort her. Gradually, the trembling in her body subsided and she began to feel more relaxed and calm. The fear in her heart began to fade away, replaced by a sense of tranquility. Yin remained still frozen, but she couldn't deny that she was also enjoying her husband's embrace. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I've been a bad husband to you. You must have thought that I've been neglecting you these past few days. Yin remained silent, as she did feel that way, but hearing the confession directly from him made her feel uncomfortable about admitting it. Lately, I've been busy because I want to finish all my piled up work as quickly as possible. After that, we'll have plenty of free time together for our honeymoon. That's why I've been spending so much time in my workspace almost every night. But it seems like my approach hasn't been entirely correct. I'm sorry if you've felt neglected by your own husband all this time. Her lips curved into a slight smile. Her husband wasn't as bad as she thought. He didn't despise her as much as she thought. Still in a position with her back to Jungkook, but he still hugged her gently. And finally, Yin spoke up. I thought you hated me so much that you didn't want to share a bedroom with me. Hate how? If I hated you, I wouldn't want to marry you. I could have rejected our arranged marriage, but I didn't. Besides, don't you remember the 2 nights we spent together? That means I don't hate you. But still, during the day, you're so cold to me. Don't you realize how distant you are? Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, I feel awkward around you. We've never been close before, so, yeah, that's it. Yin furrows her eyebrows, hearing his slightly nervous tone, wondering if her husband is now nervous or embarrassed. Curious, she turns her body so they're facing each other. Now, with very little distance between them and their bodies touching, Yin looks closely at him, trying to figure out if he's genuinely nervous or embarrassed. Why are you staring at me like that? I didn't expect a cold guy like you to feel nervous in front of a woman. I don't know if I'm like this with any woman, but why am I like this with you? Damn, I feel like a teenager in love. Ridiculous, isn't it? Are you starting to fall for me? I don't know. I just know that my life has changed after marrying you. I have a wife to accompany me for the rest of my life, and that makes me happy. Shall I find out? What? About your feelings? What do you? Before Jungkook can finish his sentence, Yin presses their lips together, kissing him briefly before pulling away, observing his reaction. Baby, don't tease me. I could just devour you right now. Feel free to devour me if you want. Jungkook stays silent, but his eyes stare intensely at her while she tries to act normal even though her heart is racing. Alright, if you're willing, I'll devour and swallow you whole tonight. Hey, your words? Use a more romantic language. Swallow me whole? Do you think you're a python? Whatever you say, but tonight, I will let myself go wild. After saying that, Jungkook showers her with intense kisses, and Yin welcomes them, even wrapping her arms around his shoulders. And that night turns out to be a long one for both of them. Turns out being your wife isn't as sad as I thought it would be. From now on, I'll enjoy my role as the lady of this house. Yin smiled quietly. Well, finally, she could be happy for the first time after her parents had left her for so long. Now she has a husband who will make her happy.